Hey everybody, Mr. D. Phillips here for Thursday, I had to think for a second, May 7th. And today we are going to be doing day 1 of lesson 8.4. So you need a few things. Today you are going to need your slate and marker. You're going to need your lesson 8.4 notes because I'm going to be referencing them in our lesson today. And of course you need your Unit 8 math book. Okay, so today's lesson is all about multiplying both fractions and mixed numbers. All right, so we know a fraction is a part of a whole. A mixed number is a whole with a fraction. So mixed number, it's like when worlds collide, whole number world and fraction world colliding together into one. So let's start off today by talking about fractions. So this week we have been doing some multiplying with fractions, and if we're looking at our notes, if you don't have your notes, pause the video right now and go grab them. The first example is this one right here, example number 1, 4 times 2/3. So I'm going to write that down on my slate, and we've done this already this week, and again, you guys are going to see in your notes the person who made them said to put a 1 under your whole number. I don't want to do that because it's going to set us up for some bad habits in the future. So as we have said throughout our week, we're going to multiply our whole number, 4, times our numerator, 2. All right, so when I multiply 4 times 2, my numerator is 8. And then we simply just slide our denominator of 3 over. That's what we've learned so far. Today, we want to know, how do I change this back into a mixed number? Now, I know we've done this before, and actually some of the students I met with yesterday, we actually started to do this already. So, to refresh everybody else, if I want to change an improper fraction or a fraction greater than 1, this is a fraction greater than 1 where the numerator is bigger than the denominator. This line in a fraction actually is another symbol for division. So I'm going to divide, okay? Now, there are still a few students who keep getting confused. What number goes in the division house? Sorry, I'm trying not to have a glare. What number is going in the division house? So it's going to be the biggest number, which would be 8. 3 is going to be my divisor. 8 is my dividend. So how many 3's fit inside of 8? So I can count 3, 6, and if I go one more, it would be 9, which is higher than 8. So how many 3's? 3 and 6, that would be 2. So 2 is my quotient. 2 times 3 is 6. And subtract. 8 minus 6 is 2. Now, there were 3 words that we continued to say to get our mixed number. And those 3 words were quotient, remainder, divisor. Say it again. Quotient, remainder, divisor. One more time. Quotient, remainder, divisor. The reason why I want to say that over and over again is because that's the order that we can build our mixed number. So my quotient is 2. Go down to my divisor. Go down to my remainder, which is also 2. And then go back up to my divisor, which is 3. And my triangle is complete. So 8/3, that was my improper fraction. Oh my goodness, I just realized it was probably blocking it. 8/3 was my improper fraction, is equivalent to 2 and 2/3. Okay, so that's how we change our fraction greater than 1 back into a mixed number. That's important for today's lesson. So we are going to do another one. I feel like I was out of the frame for my phone, so I apologize. I'll try to be better and make sure I don't do that again. So hopefully you're still watching. You're not leaving the video earlier. You want to watch the whole thing. All right. So let's look at number 2. Actually, let's do one that's not on our paper yet. Let's do another fraction one. So if I had 3 times let's say 5/7. 3 times 5/7. All right, and you guys can just watch. You don't have to do this with me. 3 times 5/7. I'm going to multiply my whole number 3 times my numerator 5. And this was yesterday's lesson, right? We were doing this all the lesson yesterday with our models. 3 times 5 is 15. Slide your denominator over is 7. The point of the lesson is I now want to change this into a mixed number. Okay? So how I do that is I'm going to divide. What number goes inside my division house? 15, the bigger one, divided by 7. So I'm thinking, how many 7s can fit inside of 15? So think about it. Count by 7s. You don't want to go over that 15. 7 times what gets me close? 2. 7 times 2 is 14. Then I can subtract. 15 minus 14 is 1. Now, what are the 3 words? We said them in the last problem. And I think I was out of the frame. But that's okay. I'm not out of the frame now. I'm going to do quotient, remainder, divisor. Say it again. Quotient, 2. So 2 is my whole. Down to my remainder, which is 1. Back up to my divisor, which is 7. Make my triangle complete. So 15/7 equals 2 and 1/7. They are equivalent. Okay? So that would be your answer for your mixed number. All right? Now that's multiplying a fraction. Today's lesson also involves multiplying a mixed number. Okay? So this is not super easy, guys, so making sure you're watching these whole videos is important right now. So I'm going to go back in our notes now, and we're going to look at example number 2 right here. Okay? So example number 2 is 3 times 1 4/5. Now, don't do this on your slate. I want you to just watch, okay? It says, step number 1, this is a little different. I have to change this mixed number, 1 4/5, into an improper fraction, or a fraction greater than 1. So all I'm going to do is, we've learned this weeks ago, but it's good to review. To change this mixed number into a fraction greater than 1 or an improper fraction, I'm going to start at the bottom of the mountain, which is 5. And I'm going to go 5 times 1. This is all mental math, hopefully, right? 5 times 1 is 5. Go back up to the numerator and add it. So 5 times 1 is 5, plus 4 is 9. So I'm going to write it underneath, 9/5. Okay? Now I can just bring down my whole number. So what's 3 times 9/5? Multiply 3 times 9 is 27. And then just slide your denominator over. 27/5. But remember, today's answers are all going to be mixed numbers. So is this a mixed number? This is either called an improper fraction, where the numerator is bigger than the denominator, or we also call it a fraction greater than 1. And we call it a fraction greater than 1 because we can turn it into a mixed number. And we know that a mixed number has a whole, at least one whole, can have more than one whole, and a fraction. That's why it's called a fraction greater than 1. Okay? So how do we do that? Again, this line means to divide. All right? Let me make sure you can see what I'm doing. All right, so I'm going to divide 27 divided by 5. So how many 5s fit inside of 27 without going over? You got to know your 5s. 5 goes into 27 5 times. 5 times 5 is 25. subtract, and I'm left with 2. All right, what are the 3 words? There are 3 magical words every time. It's going to be the same order to get those mixed numbers. Quotient, remainder, divisor. So if I follow that order, it would be my quotient is 5, that's my whole. My remainder is 2, that's my numerator. And my divisor is 5. So my answer, 27/5, is equivalent to 5 2/5. So guys, that's really the answer to this. 3 times 4/5 is going to be 5 2/5. All right, so that's the answer to our multiplication problem. You can see there's a lot of work involved in this lesson, especially if you're multiplying a mixed number. If you're multiplying a mixed number, the first thing we did is we changed our mixed number into an improper fraction, right? And we changed it into 9/5. When I did 9/5, I had to multiply it by that whole 3 to get 27/5. The final thing we did was divide it to turn it back into our mixed number. So there's quite a few steps here. These notes are very, very helpful, okay? The left side, example 1, is when you're multiplying a fraction. Example number 2 is when you are multiplying a mixed number. All right, so let's do one more. This one I can ask you to do with me on your slate. All right, so let's do 2 times 2 2/3. So first thing I'm going to ask myself, am I multiplying a fraction or am I multiplying a mixed number? Well, I see that there's a whole number and a fraction, so it's a mixed number. So that means I have to look at example number 2. The first thing I said in example 2 is I have to change my mixed number into an improper fraction. And I do that by starting at the denominator. So I'm going to do 3 times 2. I'm going clockwise. So if this was a clock, I'm going 3 times 2. 3 times 2 is 6 in my head. And then simply add the numerator. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. So underneath of it, I'm going to write 8/3. The reason why I like to do it underneath is because that just means we change 2 2/3 into 8/3. They're still worth the same amount, okay? Now I'm just going to bring down my whole number, 2, and multiply. 2 times 8 is 16, and then slide that denominator over, 16/3. All right, so step 1 was to change this into an improper fraction. We did that, okay? Step 2 was to multiply. Right now I have 16/3, which is an improper fraction, or a fraction that's greater than 1. So I need to change this back into a mixed number. How do I do that? That's going to be step number 3. Divide. That's what this line means. Okay? 16 divided by 3. 3 goes into 16 how many times? So I'm thinking 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. That's really close. How many fingers am I holding up? 5. 5 times 3 is 15. Subtract 16 minus 15 is 1. And now to get my mixed number, right, I'm simply going to think of those 3 words, which were quotient, remainder, divisor. My quotient is 5. My remainder is 1. 1's going to be my numerator. And my divisor is going to be my denominator, which is 3. So the answer to 2, there's my multiplication problem up here. 2 times 2 2/3 equals 5 1/3. Okay? If this is confusing to you, join me now in room 130 because we're going to be working on some practice problems starting at 9:30 till about 10:30. All right, guys, get started. Your problems today are on page 477 in your Unit 8 math book. You're going to do number 2, number 3, and number 4. So 2, 3, and 4 on page 477 of your Unit 8 math book. Can't wait to see. See you guys.